Hello everybody, this is TipTop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a bunch of news we got for Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, but if you're here for Magic news, don't be worried, that is a Magic set. I actually find it surprising how many people don't know this, but the next standard set is named Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, and it's a crossover set with Dungeons & Dragons, so there'll be characters and events and items and all of that represented in the cards, and we got a bunch of information about it revealed today. So we got things like card spoilers, we got things like the date being changed, we have some information about what like the styles are going to look like, and I was able to dig up some extra stuff because a lot of this is coming from a live stream they kind of, not secretly announced, but they announced the day before, and so I was also able to dig up some other information about the commander decks, bundles, and a new card type. So we are going to kind of break all of that down and more. So let's jump right into this. Starting off, let's take a look at the packaging. I did this with Modern Horizons 2, which we also got a bunch of information for, so if you want to check that out, check out my channel. The video already came out, and there's even more coming. I just figured I'd break it up into several videos so that you can watch what you want to watch. For instance, you might not play Modern or anything older than that, so you don't care about Modern Horizons 2. Either way, let's jump into this. So you can see some art here. It's actually the art that is in the background. And yeah, it's very Dungeons and Dragons-y. If we zoom in, we can actually see some stuff on the packs, but I was actually able to dig up and find the artwork. So this is it. I am not a Dungeons and Dragons player, like an avid one at all. So if this is someone who looks familiar, let me know in the comments down below. I'll like heart and pin your comment. So yeah, thank you for that. Next, we have the set boosters and the collector boosters. In terms of set boosters, we see 4 different things. We see the top image and then the 3 different boosters. But what I find very interesting is, of course, the collector boosters with that like style. And we're going to get to see a little bit more of that coming up. But I think the packs actually just look really, really clean. Like the white packs, I don't know why, that just really screams like clean and pretty awesome. All right, let's first talk about the basic lands. This was the first thing they revealed, and when I saw this, I was like a little bit thrown off. First off, I don't look at basic lands that often, but they generally don't have flavor text, but these ones do, and they kind of tell a story about the area. Again, not a Dungeons and Dragons person, but you can see some pretty interesting, like, they didn't do anything necessarily interesting with the art, but they made the card special and unique. And I think, honestly, because basic lands are the most printed cards, if they can do that, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's awesome when we get Theros Beyond Death full art lands in every pack, but it's also cool when they can just add a little bit of text and make it feel like a super unique card, even though it really is just a normal basic land. And I think that worked really well. It's also our first opportunity to see the logo on a card, and I think it looks pretty decent. And then you'll also notice the card count at 281. Sorry, from here it was a little blurry. I couldn't tell if it was a 1 or a 3. But yeah, also just one last thing. Do the little mandal symbols look different? I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to seeing text in front of them, but they look a little different. Also, generally, there is more than one of each basic land type, like, or art, I should say. So expect like another 5 of these that maybe have different flavor text and art, of course. All right, next let's talk about some cards. We have Portable Hole. It's a white artifact, and it says when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until it leaves the battlefield. All right, so pretty good card. First off, it's an artifact. A lot of the time we see this effect with enchantments. Of course, the card that comes to mind is Glass Casket, which lets you exile non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less for 2 mana. And I honestly think this is a pretty good card that goes on par with it. However, I think that 3 mana versus 2 mana is huge. There are a lot of effects at 3 mana that, a lot of your 1 and 2 drops you're not worried about. It's when you get to those 3 mana walkers or, your 3 mana, like that's where a lot of decks will run into their big kind of thing in standard and even going into other formats, especially because it gets a little bit quicker. But for me, it's like once you get to that 4 or 5, you're getting pretty high up there, but 2 mana doesn't seem super great. I mean, you at most get 1 mana advantage, and that is true of Glass Casket, but I think Glass Casket is the better card just because I can't think of too many cards that scare me at 2 mana. There are a couple. I mean, if we're looking at like Arena Standard, there's like Hallowed Priest or something. I don't think that's the name of it. Either way, there's like a whenever you gain life, it put a counter on it, not a Johnny's Pride mate. That's something that's a little bit scarier. Against aggro decks, this seems pretty good. So it might see play just for that, but for me personally, I prefer Glass Casket. Next, we have Power Word Kill, which is apparently a D&D spell that is like an insta-kill. Either way, it's a 2-cost instant. Destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. All right. This kill spell seems really good to me, but it really is meta dependent. If an angel deck, a demon deck, a devil deck, or a dragon deck, if any of those become prominent in the meta, this card instantly becomes less valuable and gets reduced to a sideboard card. But if we end up in a meta where there's a lot of control, or like mono green continues to be really, really good, and mono red, mono green, and there isn't too many angels, demons, devils, or dragons, I could see that really happening. Now, of course, they could push dragons to be really powerful, but honestly, it's been a while since we've had a pretty big tribe be kind of the best thing in Standard. Of course, we have had a lot of tribal support with Kaldheim bringing in shapeshifters, along with those demons in Kaldheim as well. So maybe we do see some of those, but if we don't, this is a really good spell. 2 mana, instant, destroy something. Really, really good. Even if there is a prominent angel, demon, devil, or dragon, I still think this card could see main board play, especially in best of 1. Next, we have Prosperous Innkeeper. It's a 2-cost green creature halfling citizen. It's a 1/1, and when it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token, which we know what treasure tokens are. You can sack them to add 1 mana of any color. But then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So this is actually adding a little bit of support to the kind of Witherbloom gaining life. A little bit after it's coming out in Strixhaven. Generally, this effect would have been seen in white, but yeah, it's a pretty good card. I mean, comparing it to something like, I believe, Daxos from Theros Beyond Death, which whenever a creature enters or leaves the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. It's double white. Its toughness is equal to your devotion to white, right? It's also an enchantment, which is a pretty big deal. This one is a 2-mana card that then gives you a treasure, which you might be able to use to then play something that will then give you life. This seems like a pretty good card, and I feel like a lot of those new Witherbloom decks are going to want to run this, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see green push more into white's territory of gaining life, which I don't know if green needs to get more things it can do and take some stuff away from white, but whatever. Next, we have Vorpal Sword. So this is going to be both in the main set and the booster buy box promo. So there will be an alternate art version that looks like this. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome card. It is a 1-cost artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Death Touch. All right, first off, pretty good. It has equipped black. So if you are running a black equipment deck, this is already pretty good. So Sir Conrad, for instance, in Commander, or I guess you could even run it in Standard at this point, is going to like this card. It's a Mardu commander that cares about equipment, cares about getting really big, and it's hard to block. But it has an ability that says, pay 8 mana, until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains whatever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So first off, you can insta-kill people for 8 mana. If you're getting up to 8 mana and you're able to hit your opponent, you probably deserve to kill them. However, I will note, one thing to note about this is it doesn't give the card the ability, like the enchanted creature, it gives the sword the ability. So I find that really interesting. Next, we have Tiamat. It's a 7-cost WUBRG legendary creature dragon god, 7/7 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have different names, and then you put those into your hand. So for me, it's not an exciting commander, and it does have an alternate art, just because it's like, oh, it's a big ETB, and then nothing happens. The Dragon God, I believe is its name, is a much more interesting commander that allows for more long-term benefit. It's not my favorite. Maybe it interestingly goes in like a Morphon deck if you're running that, because then this costs 2 mana. Either way, drawing 5 cards is really good. It's just not that interesting to me, because then you do need to run those blink effects or some way to get those and actually cast the dragons. If this was reveal 2 dragon cards and you cast them for free, that's something, but this just seems a little meh. It's drawing 5 cards, and yes, you get to pick them, and I'm not trying to say this is a bad card. It just, for me personally, this isn't a very fun one. Next, we have this card, which is not actually a card we know about, but this is going to be what the showcase style looks like. And so what it will be is it's supposed to be based on like what a D&D like rulebook drawing would be. And so I find that really, really interesting. All right, guys, so that is it for like what they revealed, but there is a little bit more that they kind of had hidden, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. All right, so let's jump into this. So using the WPN website, which is the Wizards Play Network website, it's typically used for store owners to get information about upcoming Magic sets. We're able to get a full list of all of the products, and everything's pretty typical here. Pre-release pack, draft booster box, set booster box, so on. A couple things to note though are found in the bottom four. First off, theme boosters are happening in Adventures of the Forgotten Realm, which I don't think anyone was necessarily questioning, but it is nice to see it confirmed. However, we do have a couple details about the commander decks and the bundle. I also want to mention one thing about the theme boosters. We don't have images, and that's typically because each theme booster features art from a card, and they're probably not wanting to reveal those yet. Either way, let's talk about the bundle first. So, everything here is pretty ordinary, except for one thing. 3 oversized dungeon cards. Okay, so what is this? What are dungeon cards, and why are they oversized? I think this is honestly one of the most fascinating things revealed by this, and they hint at the dungeons of Dungeons and Dragons in the announcement stream, but they don't talk anything about it. They say, oh, when spoilers come back, we'll learn about it. But we have dungeon cards, which makes me think it's going to be something where you like put a die on like a spot and you move it around, similar to like unstable contraptions almost, but I'm not sure. It has to be something that is dungeony. So is it a land? But they wouldn't do an oversized land because it's not something that goes in your deck. So they do oversized cards when it is something that doesn't go in your deck. So that means this is either a sideboard card or it's something completely different. Maybe it's like a build your own dungeon thing, or I'm not sure. I want your guys' opinion on this in the comments down below. What do you think dungeon cards are? I just found that, they revealed this information on their website, but they didn't talk necessarily about it at all on the stream. So I think that's really fascinating. And I think there are a lot of ideas that you can talk about. However, I do want to say 3 oversized dungeon cards. Does that mean each dungeon card is the same? Like, is this just like a utility tool and then you place things onto it? Like, is it a build your own dungeon kind of thing where you're like placing this as like a template and then other cards combine together to make a dungeon? Like, I honestly can't think of what this could be, but note it's probably going to fit in the same size as a normal draft or as a normal bundle. So keep that in mind when it comes to like card sizes. Either way, let's jump into the commander decks. And I want to talk about it. So it says 1 display commander card, 2 foil legendary cards, 98 additional Magic the Gathering cards, and 10 tokens. And below it, you can actually see what happened in Strixhaven. And actually, let's talk about what happened in Strixhaven and Kaldheim. So, comparing them, each one of these is different. The difference between Kaldheim and Strixhaven was first off that there were 5 of them in Strixhaven. We don't know what's happening with Adventures of the Forgotten Realms, but it is nice to see that there are commander decks. I know there were some people questioning it because it was taking the slot of a core set, but yes, there will be a commander decks, and you'll actually notice, okay, so looking at even Strixhaven, which is supposed to be the commander set for the year, they had, quote, it was a 100 card deck, 1 life wheel, 10 double-sided tokens, and reduced plastic packaging. Going back to Kaldheim, 99 card deck, 1 foil commander, 10 double-sided tokens, and 1 life wheel. So very, very similar. But with, with Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, we get 1 display commander card, which is not on either of these. 2 foil legendary cards, not 1. 98 additional Magic the Gathering cards, 10 tokens, 1 life wheel. So I'm going to guess the 1 display commander card is maybe similar to the front of the Strixhaven packaging, where it's just a big looking commander card that's not actually a card, but then again, it says it's a content. So maybe this is where the oversized commander cards are going. Maybe it's a card that isn't like the legendary itself, but something you can use for it so that you can like kind of have 2 of the card. What I find interesting is that we're getting 2 foil legendary cards. What is the reasoning for this? Well, I think, and by the way, it says 2 foil legendary cards. Before it said 1 foil commander. I'm sure this is just slight little difference in wording. Does this mean that there are going to be 2 different commanders that can helm the deck, similar to where Strixhaven had the main one and then a secondary one? Maybe they liked that. Or are they partners? Are they, taking partners and bringing them into a standard commander deck, which is still not standard legal, by the way? It could really be either. Last time we saw weird number changes, I mean, commander decks change constantly, but it was with partners being part of a commander deck. So I could definitely see them doing partners, but like, what would they do with that? I honestly think it's very likely that they are actually just giving you two commanders and you get to choose which one you want to make them more similar to the Strixhaven ones, where you get a little bit more options when it comes to that. But again, I want to know your guys' opinion. Either way, guys, that was a ton of information, some really cool card spoilers, and some, extra little things I was able to dig up. If you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful, hit that like button, subscribe, and also check out my other videos I am doing today. I believe there will be a total of 3. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.